Well, you're probably familiar with Machiavelli.
Yeah.
Machiavelli's famous book that most people read is The Prince, which is kind of a book on, political dirty tricks and doesn't have
Yeah.
the best reputation. But Machiavelli wrote another book, The Discourses, and The Discourses was a study of stable government and virtuous government based upon successful Renaissance Italian city-state models. And the discourses describes the establishment of a governance structure that includes an executive branch, a legislative branch, and a judicial branch, which happens to be the three branches of government in the United States right now. And most modern governments have a judiciary, a
Right.
legislature, and executive branch. So the founding fathers of the United States copied that model from the discourses. And when I was at MIT, I discovered the book, and it occurred to me that he was actually describing higher order feedback systems. He's describing the checks and the balances and the dynamics between all the different aspects of government, and describing how it helps the city state make it through supply shocks. Um, they say experience is what you get when you didn't get what you wanted. So I have experience because,
Right.
I've been running a publicly traded company
For a long time. Yeah.
for 22, 23 years, and I've run MicroStrategy since 1989. So I have a lot of experience as an entrepreneur, and I have experience running a large enterprise, and I have experience, you know, launching new businesses, and some succeeded, and some failed, and some half succeeded. I was fortunate enough to have a lot of experience with employees, and experience with customers. And I've been around long enough to see various cycles, economic and political cycles. But I think also I had a very fortuitous education. When I was at MIT, I studied two disciplines. I got a degree in aerospace engineering and another degree in the history of science. And it turns out that both of those subjects are in themselves multidisciplinary. Aerospace engineering is really an amalgam of civil
Mm.
engineering, electrical engineering, systems engineering, computer science, mechanical engineering, ocean engineering. So, if you're an aeronautical engineer, you're studying the design of mechanisms under constraint, and you have to think multidimensionally, and you can't make simplifying assumptions that are made in many other disciplines. And if you get one thing wrong, the plane crashes and burns, right?
Right.
You can design really sloppy mechanisms in cyberspace, like when you're building software. You can design really ugly mechanisms because it's very forgiving.
Yeah.
And if you're building a building, you would just build it with steel, because steel is infinitely strong and powerful, but it's heavy. And so when you have to make it fly, you can't simplify. We'll just build it all with steel. Now you're talking about composites, and you're talking about aluminum. So I think that the first half of my engineering education was think n-dimensionally across all different systems, and understand cybernetics and control. I mean, control theory is really important in aviation. For example, you design an airplane and it tilts this way, the lift falls on one side, or falls on one side and increases on the other side, and it brings it back to the level so the plane flies in a stable fashion. And so I kind of got to my stage in life having had a theoretical background in technology and physics and engineering, and then having a social sciences background and the impact of engineering on civilization and human condition.
Got it.
And then I got 35 years to watch that happen in the real world running a company. And then along comes Bitcoin. And so it's kind of like, the right thing at the right time. And if you have an understanding of a little bit of everything, then you appreciate Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is really engineered with a little bit of everything in it. So, we've got a pandemic, a war on COVID that accelerated all sorts of new technologies, including Bitcoin. I think the Ukrainian war has accelerated it some more, and in a couple of different ways. First of all, you've got hundreds of millions of people in Eastern Europe who have their currencies collapsing. The Russian currencies collapsed, but the Hungarian currency is weakening, the Ukrainian currency is weakening, the Polish currency is weakening, the Turkish currency is weakening. Every currency in that region is weakening, and some are completely collapsing. So people that earn money, the working class earns money in the currency or save money in the currency, are becoming insecure with their currency. The currency doesn't work anymore. The
Yep.
second is the banking systems are collapsing. If you wake up and you find out that there's a half-mile long line outside of an ATM for you to withdraw $33 in cash, then you realize the banks aren't serving you, the cash is not serving you, and you need a new form of currency or a new medium of exchange if you're going to get on with your life. And so I think there's a lot of inertia in capital structures. If you look at capital structures right now, for example, uh, there are large pools of capital that are tied up in institutions that by mandate can only invest in certain assets. So, for example, if I had $10 billion of capital for investing in stocks, well, I can't buy digital property for two reasons. One reason is my mandate from my limited partners keeps me from owning property. I have to own securities. And the
Okay.
second would be that I don't have a relationship with a digital property exchange, a crypto exchange that can actually buy it for me. And the third, of course, would be, since my limited partners won't let me buy it and I don't have the exchange agreement, I also don't have all the security protocols within my own institution to be able to custody it. Like
Right.
who should I trust with that?
Mm.
If you actually calculate how long that takes, it could take 5 years to change my mandates with my limited partners.
Whoa.
It could take 1 year to set up a new custodial relationship and vet a new exchange. It could take 6 months to a year to set up the security protocols. And
Right.
so you've got trillions, $500 trillion of capital, and they're all tied up in different kind of structures like that. That's one example of inertia. If you had $10 billion worth of real estate in downtown Moscow right now, why don't you just sell that and put that into Bitcoin? Because it's not so easy, right? I mean, Monty, that's another
I'm thinking it's
example
kind
of
of difficult now, but
right. So you see, there's a lot of capital that is already committed in structures, and it'll take a while. Probably takes anywhere from 10 to 30 years for the capital flow out. If there was a spot ETF where I could just go buy $1 billion of Bitcoin in a spot ETF, then maybe I would do that. But of course, there isn't the spot ETF because there's regulatory inertia.
yeah.
And there's also other forms of inertia, like FASB has a certain accounting treatment. The accounting treatment for Bitcoin was established when there was no company in the world that had more than $2 million of it on its balance sheet.